Welcome everybody to today. It is Tony's show forecast. We're doing a special Oscar film forecast for the Tony Awards this year. I am so happy to be talking theater, something that, I get to mention here and there, if we're talking about Jessica Chastain, for example, who's up for probably an Emmy this year. But this is where some of my first loves come from. I definitely got into theater before film, so I'm very excited to talk about today and the Broadway season alongside one of my dear friends, Constance. Welcome to the show.
Yay! Thank you for having me. It's so fun to have a friend to talk all things theater.
Yes. So we're going to basically go over all the major musical categories. We'll touch briefly on the play categories. And it's exciting. We can apply some of the same logic as our Oscar predictions and our Emmy predictions, but also some of this is its own beast. So first off, Constance, just tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what is your kind of go-to favorite type of musical, maybe a favorite show, that way before we get into the actual nominees.
Well, sure. I actually, have a very strong connection to theater. I got my master's in lighting design. I've also done a lot of stage management. So I've done not on Broadway, but I have worked for a professional opera company for a few years. I did that back in college as well. So grew up watching musical theaters. Rodgers and Hammerstein musicals were on loop in my house. And that's my dad's fault. My dad's side of the family is very theatrical, not professionally, but in their spare time. So huge connection. I do love plays as well because in college we actually did way more plays than we did musicals, and that's what introduced me to plays. And I was like, hey, you know what? Plays are good too.
The one distinction I would say, as far as the Tonys versus other award shows, is this really is a publicizing medium. Like this is trying to get people aware of these shows so that they can run. We already saw that two shows that didn't receive any Tony nominations announced closing very soon after the nominations came out. That being Bob Fosse's Dancing and Andrew Lloyd Webber's Bad Cinderella. So the Tonys are a big deal. It's the Tonys kind of exist in the way that the Oscars used to exist, which is that if you were an important show or an important film, you kind of had to be both a box office success and an awards darling. And how much celebrity factors into these awards is a whole other thing. So we're going to just jump right in. We're going to talk best musical. And also just so for those who may not know, there's best musical and best revival of a musical. Best revival of a musical are shows that have debuted in the past, and this is a new production. So you're not going to see the new Sweeney Todd with Josh Groban in best musical because it's a revival. So these are original musicals. They can be adapted from previous material, but this is the first time these songs and this music is on a Broadway stage. So those nominees are And Juliet, Kimberly Akimbo, New York, New York, Shucked, and Some Like It Hot. I have seen only all of these but And Juliet, which is why I don't have the playbook. Uh, so I'll throw to you, Constance. What are you sensing for this category? Where do you think it's going to go?
I'm very surprised by how the season, like I've been trying to pay attention to the other awards that lead up to this, like the Critics Circle and the Drama Desk and all those happy things. And just like with the Tony nominations, I'm surprised that Some Like It Hot is dominating. Like I'm like 13?
Mhm.
Wow. So again, not knowing the history of the Tonys, I'm like, are they gonna go for the big crowd pleasing show? Because other people seem to be doing that. Or are they gonna go with like the more intimate, it's talking about important things like Kimberly Akimbo? Like that's I feel like those are the two directions, if that's how the mentality to voting even goes.
So I think it's
Yeah.
it's really smart because I do think that's where this race is. It's the intimacy and kind of like the independent quality. It's like an indie, like this is like your A24 type of vibe with Kimberly Akimbo. The music, the creatives behind this are Janine Tesori and David Lindsay Abaire. David Lindsay Abaire adapting his own play here, and Janine Tesori, she's done Fun Home, which won Best Musical. She did Shrek the Musical, Thoroughly Modern Millie. She was quoted, I believe, by forget if it was Lin-Manuel Miranda. It was one of, it's a huge playwright by saying that she is the premier female Broadway playwright currently, and Broadway composer. So she's definitely not somebody to take for granted in this race. But I like the way you were sensing. I do think a lot of people are falling in love with Some Like It Hot, of course, adapted by the 1950s Billy Wilder film with Marilyn Monroe. But what I think this show has going for it, on top of the spectacle that a lot of people just love out of Broadway shows, it has a really pure soul that is distinct from the original. There's a conversation about intersectionality. There's a beautiful line in the second act where the other friend says, well, what do I call you? Do I call you by the name I knew you as, or Daphne? And the performer, played by J. Harrison Gee, says, you can call me whatever you like as long as you do it with respect. And I think that theme is really fulfilling people with this show. And I wouldn't be surprised if it takes this category, honestly, because it is the front runner in nominations, 13 nominations, 3 shy of the record, which is Hamilton with 16. So I'm currently predicting Some Like It Hot. I do think, look out for Shucked. It is I think it's surprising a lot of people. It's an original show, which is very rare on Broadway. It's not adapted on anything. And it's very funny, very much like a sitcom. So I would look out for Shucked. But I do think that in the end, Some Like It Hot, it has cultural importance, and it's a lot of fun. It's a very fun, classic musical comedy from an established director and creative team. Casey Nicholaw, who did the Aladdin Broadway musical, The Book of Mormon, Something Rotten, The Drowsy Chaperone, and also the people who did the music and lyrics for Hairspray, for Mary Poppins Returns, Mark Shaman and Scott Whitman. So I think Some Like It Hot will end up taking this category. Any other thoughts on Best Musical?
I mean, I'm praying for Shucked. I haven't seen it yet, but I have tickets. But I do think Kimberly, that's just like the little show that can, because I've been paying attention to the box office ever since a certain long time show announced it closed. So I've been watching every week to see if it was just going to be a trend. And I'm like, okay, this is like the little show that could. Yeah, that little thing. And it's funny, one of the crazy times that I went and saw that, my family went to see Some Like It Hot, and they said they were in the mezzanine and they said it was empty besides a couple of rows and them. This was February. So like even the ushers were like, thank you for coming. And I was worried that it wasn't connecting with people. So
I truly, we're still bouncing back from the pandemic. And I also think that, it's hard, I think, to get people in when they don't know what it is. And Kimberly Akimbo, I think, would definitely benefit the most from this win. So there's a part of me that wishes it does take the award, but I also think Some Like It Hot is really great. I'll just say, I haven't seen Anne Juliet. It's very much like it's a Moulin Rouge take on Romeo and Juliet in many ways. And I know it's very popular with a lot of people. The only show that I don't know how it made it in here, to be honest, I think Bad Cinderella could have probably taken this spot, was New York, New York. I mean, there was some cool, like they did some tap dancing on like scaffolding. That was pretty cool. But other than that, I honestly don't know why it's here.
Right. Unless they're like, well, we got to have more than 4. I don't know. Because if you look at, I kept notes of all the nominees. I'm like, not every category is treated the same. We have 6 lead actor musicals, but only 5 lead actress. That bothers me. So,
be consistent.
Yeah, New York, New York was panned. So I thought it would be where like Dancing is, like, oh yeah, it's panned, it's forgotten about, it didn't get nominated, and then it would close. I thought it would be this epic commercial failure. So
I think it just has such a strong team. We have Susan Stroman, who directed the winningest, toniest show of all time, which is The Producers. We have Lin-Manuel Miranda writing new lyrics with John Kander, who John Kander did Chicago and Cabaret. Lin-Manuel Miranda needs no introduction. So I just think maybe that team would, like, if they didn't get in, it would be such a mark on them. When you look at the other contenders, the 4 musicals that were in contention that did not get here, Andrew Lloyd Webber's Bad Cinderella, which has had just a myriad of bad press. They were asking for it with that title. K-pop, which like closed in like a week, I think. It was like this blink and you miss it show that rarely happens. there was Almost Famous, the musical, based on the Cameron Crowe musical movie, and then Neil Diamond, A Beautiful Noise, which honestly I think should have gotten that fifth spot. I wasn't even a Neil Diamond fan, and I enjoyed myself at the show. That show got no nominations, and I think is only surviving because people like Neil Diamond. Yeah, moving on to best revival of a musical. So again, these are shows that have debuted, and these are new productions with new creative teams, but they're generally the same script and music. They might make small alterations here and there. So we have Camelot, Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street, Parade, and Into the Woods, which my playbill is upstairs. I grabbed two Sweeney Todds instead of the Into the Woods one.
I could get my Into the Woods. I have the playbill.
You're good. You're good. So, Constance, what are you feeling about this? I believe you've seen at least half of this. I know you've seen the Sondheim shows, specifically these productions. So, what are you feeling about best revival of a musical?
The only thing I feel confident in is it's not going to be Camelot. I know it's a classic and it has Philippa Sue and all these other wonderful things about it. You know, it's a prestigious venue, but I'm not feeling the love from people in general when they talk about the revival section. The Sondheim love is strong, and we have two. I can't believe we have two Sondheim revivals in one season. We didn't talk about this either. People always ask me like, "Oh no, Six didn't win last year. Can it win this year?" No, you can only be nominated in the year that you the season that you come out. So just to clarify that,
Wicked cannot win, even though it should. It cannot win again.
Right. So just because a show runs for 3, 4, 10, 35 years doesn't mean it can keep sweeping up the Tonys. So just to be clear about how the rules work. Yes.
But funny enough, speaking of Phantom of the Opera, it debuted 35 years ago alongside Into the Woods, which saw this sort of like as close to a blockbuster sensation I feel that you can get on Broadway. This had an all-star cast. Sarah Bareilles kind of made her official. She had done a stint in her own show, Waitress, but this was like I believe the first show that she opened in, and she played the baker's wife. Got rave reviews. It is argued one of the greatest performances in Broadway history, Joanna Gleason's Tony Award-winning original performance in this show. So yeah, Into the Woods, definitely a very popular revival. That opened at the very beginning of the season, where the other Sondheim show, Sweeney Todd, opened at the end of the season and is directed by Hamilton and soon-to-be Moana live-action director Thomas Kail. So, Constance, where are you thinking? Where is this? I assume you think it's going to be one of the Sondheims.
No,
oh, no,
that's what I want. But again, if the line of thinking in today's society is to keep awards relevant, is to go with what is saying something important, what's being meaningful, and what's asking uncomfortable questions, I actually think it's going to go to Parade. So I could be wrong. Again, I'm not an expert. Watch Camelot win it, and I have to eat crow. But
yeah, I will bet you right now, Camelot is not gonna take this one.
I've just heard such glowing reviews.
Yeah, I had a nice time at Camelot, but listen, I'm a Sondheim person at heart. I've seen Sweeney Todd 3 times. I absolutely love this production. And I do think that it would probably be my vote here. I do think that what you say is important. Parade, it's a show that tackles anti-Semitism. And in fact, this was the show that neo-Nazis protested in front of its opening preview. So it's definitely a topical show. And I think when you look at Into the Woods, when you look at Sweeney Todd, these are shows that always get this sort of prestige because they're Sondheim musicals. And I think you may be right that Parade, this is only its second time on Broadway after its original run, and that original run wasn't really successful. I think this one definitely is making more headway thanks to Ben Platt in the leading role, who's always a topic of conversation. So even though, again, my heart would go Sweeney, I do think the other thing about Sweeney Todd is it didn't get a Best Director nomination for Best Direction of a Musical. Into the Woods did, and that surprised me. So I do think it's between Into the Woods and Parade, and I might lean Parade after you might have swayed me. So I might go Parade. I think it's between those two. I think it helps that Parade is open now, and Into the Woods has already closed up shop. So I definitely think that would be an interesting stat to see, like, if you close before Tony's, do you end up like, does that affect your chances of winning? Because then in that case, I do think Parade might end up taking it.
Right. I have a question.
Mhm.
So whether you just study the Tonys and so you know this, or you're just going to use your overall award knowledge, do you think being nominated for directing and best whatever it is, play or musical, does have the same kind of effect that the Oscars have? Like, oh, if you get one, you tend to get the other, or what do you think
As
about
far as far as winning both, it's sometimes not necessarily. The thing about the Tonys is that we're just dealing with a smaller crop.
that?
And
Mhm.
so and also for the voters, I think it's very easy to have seen everything. Like, it's hard to watch how many movies get released in one year, 300, like, especially the ones you just go on the Academy portal, you're dealing with at least 100 films that could be in contention. With musicals, as we said, there were only 9 original musicals to have picked, and there's only 6 musical revivals. I mean, what? That's like not even half a month you could hit them all, if you were paying attention. So I do think that in that way they might spread them out a little bit more, just because they have seen everything. And also it's a very close, intimate community. Everybody is within the same 12 blocks. So it's something to keep in mind. But we've seen Hamilton's just run through the awards, but also we've seen shows like Six, where Six was able to win Best Original Score, which I think not a lot of people were predicting. They were thinking A Strange Loop last year, which won the Pulitzer, it won Best Musical, would take score, but they gave some love to Six because, again, that's the whole. They want. I think if you get in the door, they kind of want you to win something so that you can get some money off of that, which is what made Bad Cinderella and A Beautiful Noise just that kind of shocking that they didn't get anything, even though I do think they deserve some stuff. Let's briefly touch on Best Direction of a Musical because you brought it up. We have Michael Arden for Parade, Lear de Bessonet, Into the Woods, Casey Nicholaw, Some Like It Hot, Jack O'Brien, Shucked, and Jessica Stone, Kimberly Akimbo. You leaning any way in this category, Constance?
Um, Based on everything I've read, because I haven't seen all of these, what people are talking about the most with Parade, other than I guess Ben Platt, is the direction. It's not just the subject matter, but how it's presented. And I'm hearing that more than the other shows. It's not that people don't think, oh, look at what Something Like It Hot's doing, but I don't think that's where their focal point is. Like, out of the 13 nominations, I feel like that's getting the least amount of chatter for that show.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I'm not confident in this because I don't know how to judge a thing, especially when I'm like, oh God, I haven't seen. Well, I have tickets to 2 of these, but I haven't seen them yet. So
Yeah. You see, the thing with the one you have seen, which is Into the Woods, that was a transfer of a kind of concert version of the show. There wasn't much
right.
not to say there wasn't much of the direction, but there was less components than some of these other productions. I am going to put Michael Arden down, who directed Parade. Everything that you just talked about as far as the importance of Parade, but also Michael Arden is a well-regarded director who's never won this category. He has previously directed these popular Once on This Island revival with Glee star and nominee in this Tony season, Alex Newell. And also he directed the Deaf West production of Spring Awakening, where American Sign Language and deaf people, American Sign Language signers, were in that production. And that was well regarded, but he didn't win. I think it might have been the year Hamilton was up, which is why. So I think, as you said, Parade is an important show, and I think it's his time. A lot of these other contenders, like Casey Nicholaw, we've taken care of them before. I would maybe look out for Jessica Stone just because it's an original musical with Kimberly Akimbo, and they have tend to been awarding a lot of female directors recently, as we saw with Hadestown a couple of years back. But I'm going to put Michael Arden down for Parade. Let's just we'll do Best Book and Best Original Score. The book is the script of the musical. That's their terminology. So we have, for Best Book, Anne Juliet, Kimberly Akimbo, New York, New York, Shucked, and Some Like It Hot. Note that Some Like It Hot was co-written by Amber Ruffin, who was a writer for Seth Meyers. So this is a kind of her. I believe this is the first show she's ever written for Broadway, and it's just cool to see her up here and some new talent. I would say this is between Shucked and Some Like It Hot. I think if they wanted to give Shucked something, the book is definitely a right place to award it. It's really funny, and it's the fact that it is original story, I think, does help Shucked. But I also think some of like the fact that I could call back one of the lines from Some Like It Hot, and I saw it back in February, I think, and I've obviously only seen it once because Broadway's expensive. So I think that also proves that that book has a lot of gravity to it. So will it defy gravity and win this category? What are you thinking?
Oh, I'm thinking Shucked for sure. I have tickets to this. I'm so mad that I didn't see it prior to Tony's. That was the goal, but I had to move some stuff, and I was like, oh, I gotta wait.
I had to see Phantom for the seventh time.
I mean, it was closing. So okay, Shucked. I mean, because everyone's talking about the hilarity of it, and it's well received. I mean, comedy is hard. It's deceptively hard. People think comedies are easier. I don't think they are. So to have that many people, like as soon as they discover it, really fall for it and they really love it, I think that's just a greater feat, and it's original. I think we should reward people. Like, let's not be afraid. I'm not anti jukebox musical, by the way, but I want to reward those who are like, I just have an idea and it's not really based on anything you're already familiar with. So I hope they do reward that. Yeah. So Shucked.
I think it's very possible. I've won the lottery for this sucker twice. And I've enjoyed it both times. It was a lot of fun, very funny, some of the best one-liners ever. Yes, so let's move on to Best Original Score. So this is the music and lyrics. And again, it's written for theater. So you're not going to see A Beautiful Noise, the Neil Diamond musical, because those songs were not written for the stage. So we have Almost Famous, where Cameron Crowe was actually nominated for his lyrics here. Kimberly Akimbo, K-pop, Shucked, and Some Like It Hot. Where do you parse this one out with?
This one's hard. I'm happy Almost Famous got in here because that's another one that's closed. It's again, if I were in charge, I'm all about spreading the wealth. No one would have 13 nominations. Everyone would have like 5 or 6. And I haven't heard a lot of the music. So when I think of score, I don't know. I guess what stays with you after the fact? You've seen more of these. Is any particular score you're like, oh man, like I'm still thinking about that music later? To me, that's important.
I think Kimberly Akimbo's the most interesting score as far as it's just Some Like It Hot is your traditional movie adaptation score, and of course Mark Shaman and Scott Whitman, like you just know what they sound like. I think Shucked. The thing with Shucked is that it's where the book is hilarious. The music isn't that all the time. It's very country music, and the show kind of becomes a different animal when it goes into the music, except for one song, which we'll get to. So I'm kind of leaning Kimberly Akimbo. I think given that the performances, at first we thought maybe it could win 3 of the performance categories. I don't think that's the case anymore. I wonder if whether it can win any of them. And because of that, I think this will be a nice place to award Kimberly Akimbo. So yeah, I think I'm going to go Kimberly Akimbo for this. And also, this is a great place because David Lindsay-Abaire is nominated both for book of a musical and writing the lyrics in this category. So it could kind of, why give them best book and not best score when you could also give Janine Tesori some love here. So I'm going to go Kimberly Akimbo.
Right. I agree. Like, I do think Shucked is stronger book-wise. I don't think this is its race at all.
Let's get on to the performance categories. You're going to recognize some names here. So, best performance by a leading actor in a musical. We have Christian Borle in Some Like It Hot. J. Harrison Ghee, who plays Jerry and Daphne in Some Like It Hot. Josh Groban, who plays the titular Sweeney Todd in Sweeney Todd. Brian Darcy James, who plays the baker in Into the Woods. You would know him as he was one of the members of the ensemble in Spotlight. And Ben Platt in Parade, playing Leo Frank. And Colton Ryan playing Jimmy Doyle in New York, New York, which he also played Connor in the Dear Evan Hansen film and was one of the only shining parts of that film. So it's actually, in that way, it's kind of nice that Ben and Colton are nominated here together. Also, it should be noted, so we have J. Harrison Ghee and then Alex Newell in the supporting category. Both are, I believe, non-binary and go by the pronouns they, them. But they were asked what category they wanted to be submitted in. They both chose the leading actor categories. I think because I know Alex Newell said that they thought that actor is the overall overarching term for anybody. And that's why they're in these categories. And I think it's going to benefit them both. We'll talk about Alex Newell in a second, because I actually think J. Harrison Ghee is going to pull this out and take this category.
I agree entirely. I'm like, oh, this is, even though it has the absolute most nominees, we don't need 6. I don't like it when they split shows. Like, why is Christian Broyle in here? He already has 2 Tonys.
He was very good. He was a lot of fun in this role.
I know he's amazing. I know his Tonys are not in lead actor. I'm pretty sure they're both in feature or I know, I think one's for a play, I think. But anyway, point is, this is J. Harrison Ghee's performance to reward. I don't know why they put Christian Broyle in here too. It's overstuffed as a category. Josh Groban might be who is bringing the people into the Lunt Fontanne, but he's not who's keeping them once you get there. So no,
you are right. Christian Broyle has never been nominated in the leading category.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think that, listen, we have a lot of classic musical characters: the Baker, Sweeney Todd, Leo Frank. This could be round 2 for Groban versus Platt, because of course Josh Groban in his debut a couple years ago in The Great Comet of 1812, or the full title, Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812, lost to Ben Platt in Dear Evan Hansen. But I don't think we're going to get round 2 of that. I just think that J. Harrison Ghee is Some Like It Hot. The reason why it has 13 nominations is because of that performance and that character, and I think they will take this, and I think it's going to be a really important night. And hopefully move us, as Jack and I have talked about in the past on the show, hopefully it moves us towards a conversation of getting rid of this gendered category. You know, I think, listen, there are a lot of questions that we need to answer, but I think it's time to answer them, because it's just getting to the point that we're starting to award people in categories that don't necessarily fit with their gender identity. So very much looking forward to their win and their speech. Let's move on to Best Performance by a Leading Actress in a Musical. For our non-theater fans out there who are listening, and we thank you for listening, let me just set the stage here for this. No, that was not intended. That just slipped out. This is as good a category as the Emmys of 2021, when we had Best Actress in a Limited Series, when we had Elizabeth Olsen in WandaVision, Michaela Cole in I May Destroy You, Cynthia Erivo in Genius Aretha, Anya Taylor-Joy in The Queen's Gambit, and then Kate Winslet winning for Mayor of Easttown. This is the theatrical equivalent of that category. So with that, the nominees are Anna Lee Ashford for playing Mrs. Lovett in Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street, Sarah Bareilles for Into the Woods, playing the baker's wife, Victoria Clark playing Kimberly Lavaco in Kimberly Akimbo, Lorna Courtney playing Juliet Capulet in And Juliet, and Michaela Diamond playing Lucille Frank in Parade. Take it away, Constance.
Oh, it's stacked. And for the longest time, I was like, Victoria Clark, this is hers. I can feel it. But maybe because Kimberly Akimbo did open, like November, October, it's been on Broadway for a while. Maybe it has that same, it's fading away. Oh no. And who's sneaking up with her pies and taking all the other awards? Anna Lee Ashford, who I have seen, who I've never seen anyone she had the audience in her hand. She controlled us the entire time. I've never seen that. So I'm like, I don't know. I think Victoria Clark is still a dark horse here. I think she could take it, but I don't know. I see it slipping away.
So I definitely think it's, with all due respect to Lorna Courtney and Michaela Diamond, they're young. This is, I think the nomination is the win for them. I was very happy to see Michaela Diamond here because I think that she was the best part of Parade. Sarah Bareilles, I think, definitely surprised people. I think people were not expecting this pop star to kind of just come into this show and play one of the most iconic roles and make it her own. One of the New York Times writers even said that it was the best interpretation of that character since the original Tony winning performance. So there's definitely praise for her. But I do think this will come down to Victoria Clark and Anna Lee Ashford. Now, Victoria Clark has won this category for The Light in the Piazza. Anna Lee Ashford has also won a Tony, but for a play. She's never won for a musical. And she's been in a bunch of stuff. She was in the original cast of Legally Blonde, the musical, including the MTV series Legally Blonde: The Search for Elle Woods, with Christian Borle. She was in Kinky Boots, and she was in the revival with Jake Gyllenhaal of Sunday in the Park with George. So I do think that it would have been great. It would be great to just honor her musical career, period. But if you've seen this show, it's kind of undeniable. And I'm going to say something that's hyperbole, but I 100% mean it. I've seen the show 3 times. I'm going back because I truly believe Annalee Ashford gives the greatest performance I've ever seen in any medium. Over film, television, theater, it is the greatest performance I've ever seen. I don't think you're that surprised to hear that come out of my mouth because you have seen it. And it is just this brilliant performance. It is one of the most, just one of those hilarious, gut-busting, like you have to catch your breath works I've ever seen, but also one of the most depressing and like heartbreaking character studies. She owns this role. After people like Angela Lansbury, Patti LuPone, Imelda Staunton, Helena Bonham Carter, after all those wonderful women, she is able to make this completely her own, and I think becomes the definitive Mrs. Lovett, which is a hard thing to do. She has also won some precursors from other awards bodies where they have like 20 people and they only pick 2. She was one of those 2 as a distinguished performer. So I do think that in the end, there's not going to be a lot of other places Sweeney Todd can win. I think this is going to be the one it wins, and it will be one of the more deserving awards. Because honestly, if I can pitch you at all, maybe just listen to the album when it comes out. Annalee Ashford gives the defining performance of 21st century theater in this show.
I agree. Antony does not bestow such compliments lightly. If he's saying all this, it is just the gospel, okay? Like it's the truth. I'm serious. I usually don't see the opening cast of any show. Usually by the time I see a show, they've done a cast change. And seeing this, it made me go, is this what it's like? Is this why everyone always goes on and on? I'm like, I was there for the first cast. I'm like, if this is what it's like, I need to go more when things open, like the minute they open, so I can catch that group. Because I mean, the energy in the room was just so different than anything else I've experienced.
She makes falling down a flight of steps into vaudevillian Monty Python level pure comedy. It is, again, it's just such a masterclass on what a performance is able to do. And she just, again, completely redefines this text. She is the show. All right, so moving on to the supporting categories, where the Tony nomenclature is best performance by a featured actor or actress in a musical. For a featured actor, we have Kevin Cahoon for Shucked, Justin Cooley for Kimberly Akimbo, Kevin Dill Aguila for Some Like It Hot, Jordan Donica for Camelot, and Alex Newell for Shucked. Take it away, Constance.
Oh, Alex Newell. The end. No kidding. Critics I follow described that pivotal, I don't know what it is, don't spoil it for me, but it's a pivotal, I think it's the end, towards the end of Act 1.
Towards the end, not the final song in Act 1, but it's later.
But close to the end. They say, I rarely use the term show stopping, but apparently this is a show stopping, like stops the show cold.
It stops the show, and there has been a mid-show standing ovation at the end of this song both times I've seen it, which is rare. That is rare. Very, very rare. So you are right to have enthusiasm for Alex Newell. I think, listen, we have a lot of great performers here. Justin Cooley is, so wonderful and innocent in Kimberly Akimbo. Kevin Dill Aguilar does something with his legs, like dancing wise. It is so weird and cool that it's almost worthy to give him the award for that. Jordan Donica, Kevin Cahoon, wonderful talents. But I do think that Alex Newell not only has paid their dues, they have been in this industry for a little while now. Of course, starting on Glee back in the day, in season 3, I believe. So I think that this is just a wonderful way to honor their legacy and their career, what they have done to move the conversation forward for gender equality and equality for non-binary people. And also this, again, it's a show-stopping role. It's a role that's designed to win a Tony. They have a fantastic song that is on YouTube. You can go look it up and you get to see them performing it in the booth and performing it on stage. But it is just the type of electric performance that wins this category. So I definitely think Alex Newell will take this, and it will be one of the highlights of the night. All right, so going into featured actress in a musical, we have Julia Lester for Into the Woods. Julia, you may know if you watch High School Musical, the musical, the series. Ruthie Ann Miles is also nominated for The Beggar Woman and Sweeney Todd. Bonnie Milligan in Kimberly Akimbo. Natasha Yvette Williams in Some Like It Hot. And Betsy Wolfe for Anne Juliet. I just want to say the one person I think is missing from this list is Ali Mawzy, who was in Kimberly Akimbo. She plays Kimberly's mom. If you don't know, the story of Kimberly Akimbo is that we have this teenager who, it's kind of like Benjamin Button, where their face ages in a different way. In this case, it's aging faster than her body. So that's why we have Victoria Clark, who is much older, playing a 16-year-old. And so her parents are actually played by younger actors. It's a cool, quirky little thing. And though Bonnie Milligan is wonderful as her aunt in the show, I did miss Ali Mawzy, who I think was the best part of Kimberly Akimbo. So I was sad to see her not there. But we have a very strong list. Great to see Julia Lester there. We have some new talent. Though I do think that this will be the acting award that Kimberly Akimbo takes home with Bonnie Milligan. This would be her first Tony. And she has done some great work. She was in the Go-Go Girls musical, Head Over Heels. Ruthie Ann Miles could always take it as a surprise. She is a Tony winner. And The Beggar Woman, she really owns this role. And it's not the type of role that usually gets awarded to, so it was great to see her here. But I'm leaning Bonnie Milligan. What say you?
Same. But I'm hearing a lot of things about Betsy Wolfe, so I don't know if that's one to watch out for.
Mm-hmm.
The one I'm surprised that's not here is Patina Miller as the witch from Into the Woods. That's the one that I'm like, really? Not her?
I wonder if she would have been, because I think the rule is that if you are above the title, you have to be in a lead category. So that's why Viola Davis, when she did Fences on Broadway with Denzel Washington, she had to be in Best Leading Actress in a Play because her name was above the title. But because the Oscars don't have that rule, she could go supporting and then won the Oscar there. And she won the Tony here as well. So I think that's why Patina Miller would have to go in Leading Actress. And when you looked at that category. But, listen, we have what? We have 5 names. Sometimes there's 5, sometimes there's 6. It's all math that, frankly, we're still trying to figure out the preferential ballot of the best picture. So that's enough for us today. But so you're leaning Bonnie Milligan as well?
I am. But I do feel like Betsy Wolfe is the possible jockeying for, I don't know.
Yeah, that could be a way to get
That's interesting that you thank you for that description, because especially with a show like Into the Woods, that's such an ensemble. It's really hard to tell sometimes who is the lead of this story. I mean, we have our leads, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know, but this is like an everybody's story. So thanks for clearing that up. This is why I like researching this stuff, because there's no consistency. Like if you look at the drama desk or even the critic circle, whatever,
outer critic
it's funny how everyone has different categories. Like some of them count off Broadway and some don't. And some of them say best solo performance, and some of them actually say, hey, let's award best video projection. There's no consistency.
Which also makes this fun, because with the Oscars now, there's a deluge of so many award shows that kind of, it's okay, maybe you get a Jamie Lee Curtis type of prediction, even though I did call that when all was said and done. But, with the Tonys, there's not really a lot of precursors. So it makes it a little bit more fun to predict these things. I do want to mention, I do think the one omission for Best Featured Actor in a Musical, I thought he was fantastic. I've been a fan of him forever, of course. And I saw his High School Musical back in the day. And he was great there, but he definitely has improved. And I would have considered him in the winning conversation, Gaten Matarazzo for Sweeney Todd. Another person who completely reinvents his character. I was very sad that he didn't get in there, but I hope he does in the future, because it was a great role. And he definitely, again, did the definitive version of that character going forward, I feel. All right, so that's kind of the major categories for the musicals. We'll touch briefly now on the plays before we get going. So we have Best Play, Ain't No Mo, Between Riverside and Crazy, Cost of Living, Fat Ham, and Leopoldstadt. I'm leaning with Leopoldstadt. It's another show that deals with anti-Semitism. This is a little bit further back than Parade, because this deals kind of with the rise of the Nazi regime with a very affluent Jewish family. It's from Tom Stoppard, who is an acclaimed playwright and screenwriter. So I think this is definitely, and this actually has been running, I think, the longest, and is still running. It's going to close in July, but that's pretty impressive for a play to run for almost, if not a full year. So especially when it's not like Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. So I'm leaning Leopoldstadt. Look out for Fat Ham because I think that won the Pulitzer or won another top award, but I'm leaning Leopoldstadt.
Yeah, same. But best new play, this is stacked. I mean, it's the first time we have three nominated Pulitzer Prize winners. We've had two before, but we have not had three. So I think that's amazing. I've heard nothing but amazing things about all of these. I know Fat Ham has a lot of love. I haven't heard too much about Between Riverside and Crazy. That's the one I've heard but maybe I haven't looked everywhere. But yeah, I think Leopoldstadt for sure.
For the playbill because I did see Leopoldstadt. Really great play.
Oh, yes.
It's actually already been announced it's going to be adapted, I believe, for a television miniseries, which I actually think is probably a better medium than the play because there's a lot of characters and they age up. It was a huge cast, a much bigger cast than normal for a play. So definitely look out for it when it becomes a miniseries because it's definitely a really, just really important text. I am going to hopefully be happy seeing win this category. So best revival of a play, we have Top Dog, Underdog, The Sign in Sydney Brewstein's Window, The Piano Lesson, and A Doll's House, which stars.
Oh, you've seen it.
Yes, I've seen it, and I was very fortunate enough to go to the opening night performance. It was wonderful. It was a really great production, and Jessica Chastain was, of course, extraordinary. And this also starred Arian Moayed, who, of course, many people know from Succession as Stewie. So I'm leaning A Doll's House. I think it's definitely the most popular of these. It's still running. It has star power. It's a minimalist production that I think will balance out the maximalist kind of production of Some Like It Hot and the spectacle of that. I also think Leopoldstadt is a very maximalist type of play. The set design and the large ensemble. You know, again, not as much as Harry Potter, but as far as plays go of this nature, I think that we'll see a balance between a very big play and a very small play. There's no set to A Doll's House. It's literally just a couple chairs, and it's riveting. It was phenomenal. So I'm going to Doll's House. Do you agree?
I'm torn. So one of my big research papers in college was on Henrik Ibsen, who is the playwright of A Doll's House. Everyone knows who Shakespeare is, but like if William Shakespeare is like Walmart, Henrik Ibsen is like Target. He's sitting in that number 2 seat. Like everyone in the play community really respects Ibsen's work. It's really groundbreaking. This is a man who can write feminism. All right, so this is very important. So if you like feminism, The Doll's House is for you. If you don't, but I have heard people complain because of the lack of set. They're like, what am I paying for? I'm like, well, obviously you're paying for the talent, but it brought up this interesting debate of, do they owe us some je ne sais quoi on stage? Because I believe it's all about the text. If the text isn't good, there's no point in doing the rest of it. But I understand if people feel a little miffed, like, well, I don't feel like I got my money's worth, and so I didn't come out happy. But I mean, you're supposed to think. A Doll's House makes you think. I've heard a lot of things for The Piano Lesson. Surprisingly, this feels like it's coming out of nowhere.
Well, so The Piano Lesson, I believe, is getting a film adaptation. I think maybe from Netflix. And it's adapting this revival the same way that Fences adapted that Broadway revival of that show for the film with Denzel Washington and Viola Davis. So there definitely is. I would say it's probably those two.
Yeah.
But again, lean the one that's still running. You go with Doll's House.
Yes. So if the politics of awards works the way I think it, based on my research that I've been doing the past like 6 weeks, The Piano Lesson did win the drama desk. So I don't know if that's supposed to be an indicator. Maybe that means nothing. But I'm like, oh, really? Because again, the drama desk is Broadway, off Broadway, and off Broadway.
Yeah.
So out of all the things that you could put out there, like, maybe I should pay attention. I don't know. I feel like there's room there. So I'm not confident in A Doll's House. I'm mostly there, but not all the way. But I haven't seen either.
It should be noted too that A Doll's House got 6 nominations to The Piano Lessons 2.
Right.
So that also, I think, shows more strength than A Doll's House. And I also think it helps that A Doll's House, I'm predicting Jessica Chastain will get halfway to her EGOT, and
Yes.
win Best Performance by a featured leading actress in a play. Her competition here is Jessica Hecht for Summer 1976. You may know as Gretchen from Breaking Bad, or Susan from Friends, who was actually this incredible theater actress who's done so many wonderful works. She actually starred alongside Scarlett Johansson in A View from the Bridge when Scarlett Johansson won her Tony. And if you didn't know, Scarlett Johansson won a Tony in 2010, the same year she started as Black Widow. Look it up.
It was a good
But
year.
yeah, it was a good year for her. And also,
I mean,
so no, go.
no, I agree. I mean, when I look at the list, I'm like, oh, Doll's House again, but I'm a little swayed. Plus, Henrik Ibsen is from Norway, and my ancestors are, so I feel a connection. Like, oh yeah, this guy knows how to write women. It's nice to know that a man can write a woman. That's just refreshing. So I just, in a post Me Too world, I think it's important. So
Though I do think that there was an adaptation made to this text by Amy Herzog, I believe. The same way that for Camelot, there was an adaptation of that original book done by Aaron Sorkin. So sometimes we get slight variations. But from somebody I know that like lives and breathes Ibsen, he said that it wasn't. I think he said that it was so close to the original text, he was like, why change it at all? So it's pretty much the same script. So, but Jessica Chastain would have to take down Jodie Comer in Prima Facie, Jessica Hecht in Summer 1976, and the Meryl Streep of Broadway, who has won 6 Tonys, which is the record, Audra McDonald in Ohio State Murders. You can never count her out, but again, I do think she has such goodwill coming off her Oscar. She's in George and Tammy, which is going to be up for the Emmys this year. I think we're finally just snowballing and giving her all her roses. So I'm going to lean Jessica Chastain. I don't think I fail to see how the show can get 6 nominations and she doesn't go along with it as far as a win. Like, she is the show. It's all on her. There's definitely more categories. We're not going to hit the rest of them today, but definitely you can look up. We have, people like Samuel L. Jackson is nominated for Best Featured Actor in a Play. You have just a lot of wonderful craftsmen and, the lighting design, costumes. There's so many things that come together to create the magic of theater. Constance, is there any last type of notes you want to leave with our audience? Anything you want to recommend? Would you like to give a eulogy to Phantom of the Opera one last time?
No, I'm already working on a video for that. So you can catch it there. I do have my own little channel. 2 things. So for Best Featured Actor in a Play, it's time to reward Brandon Yarowitz for Leopoldstadt. He's like the Glenn Close of theater. He's been nominated 5 billion times. And because this show is getting such praise, I'm like, okay, it's his turn. So vote Brandon. As far as the tech awards, I'm a techie, so hey. I would give Best Lighting to Sweeney because that is, I've dragged my family to a lot of theaters since they've gotten to my life, and Sweeney was the first time they came out and they said, I really liked the lighting. They've never said that before, and I was like, yes.
It's very clever. It's definitely atmospheric, and there's a moment, I will not spoil it because it is one of the coolest moments in my history of seeing Broadway, that is all reliant on the lighting design going to blackout at just the right time. So if you've seen the show, you know what I'm talking about. And if not, get your tickets.
And for plays, I do think Life of Pi is going to sweep most of the technical, if not all of them. So wanted to give a little shout out to that because, I love musicals too, but let's give the plays some love. They are doing some incredible things. I did not realize this until I actually read about it. I did not realize that Harry Potter was a play, or more of a magic show. It's not a musical. So let's say you hate musicals, but you're a Harry Potter fan. You should go check it out. Life of Pi. Do you love that movie? Do you want to see innovative, envelope pushing, not just with projections, but with puppetry? Go see Life of Pi. So I just wanted to give a little love to some plays.
Yeah. There's a wide variety on Broadway. Listen, we're up against a strike now. We're up against now this awful firestorm that's now come to the US. And as Jodie Comer walked off after 10 minutes yesterday of performing her play Prima Facie and said, listen, I can't do this. It's affecting my ability to perform. So even though we'd love to say the show must go on, that's not a threat. We need to make sure that we're always being respectful of our talent, and that's what we want to do today and honor this industry that we haven't been able to honor in the past. And to be honest, I don't know if we'll be able to do this to this extent every year. I was very fortunate to be working for The Daily Show. I was in New York and got to see all these wonderful shows. But let us know if you enjoyed this special episode. If you're new to the channel because you love theater, stick around. Jack and I, my co-host, we talk about Oscars and Emmys and all that other stuff. And we'll be definitely, hopefully, starting up the Emmys soon if the strike doesn't postpone it. But we'll definitely probably have reviews going into the summer. We have some Oscar potentials with Past Lives and Oppenheimer and Barbie. So definitely subscribe, give us a like, comment below. Constance, where can they find you on the internets?
I am on Twitter at Constance A. Lewis. I also have my own little channel where I mean, it's just for fun, but I do talk theater. So if you're clicking on this because you like theater, I also talk about theater on my own little channel. It's called Connie's Corner. So you can find me there on YouTube.
Yes. So thank you. You all know where to find me at Anthony_post, Letterboxd, Instagram, Twitter. Thank you, Constance, once again. And yeah, thank you for joining us and enjoy the Tonys, everybody. Bye-bye.